Hey everyone, these podcasts wouldn't be possible. Certainly our podcasts in Newmarket, Aurora, and Georgina around wouldn't be possible without sponsors. And we want to give a shout out to Market Brewing Company. They've been partnering with us in the Snap sense and doing music together all summer through COVID. They're certainly a COVID responsible company, but their tap room is open and now they've actually come back to life. We're happy to say that they've got lots of gigs going on from bingo. They have food trucks and food vendors. They have Thursday night comedy jams. They have Friday night music with Snapped. They have Saturday afternoon live music gigs in support of charities. So they're doing a lot of stuff right now. We want to support them and they're supporting us. So you can check out their website to stay up to date with what's going on. It's marketbrewingco.com and stay up to date with them and have fun with them. See you guys. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Conversations in Newmarket with Neighbur. It's Paul here. I'm one of the hosts of Neighbur podcasts, so I'm on the first couple, but there's other people that are also involved. And today I want to welcome Brad, Sylvie, and Jules, who are part of our podcast, and it's great to have you guys on the show. Welcome.
Thanks
Thanks
for having us.
Great. And Sylvie's not in the studio, but Brad and Jules and I are, and it's great to have you remotely here, Sylvie. But I'm going to start off the premise behind the show. I think we've been talking a little bit before the show, but the premise behind the show is us as neighbors just kind of exploring what we'd like to see happen in the future with Newmarket, what's going on that we think is great, how we can help each other, digging a little bit behind you guys. And so I'm going to start with you, Brad, because you're looking all serious over there. How did you end up in Newmarket? I know you're not from a Newmarket.
Actually, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Actually, we go back 6 generations.
Oh.
My ancestors, I'll call them, were kicked out of the United States after the American Revolution. They were Quakers, and they came up and settled outside of Kettleby.
Wow.
And my brother actually is very much involved in researching family history, and he found the settlers' gravestone, which is on Jane Street, just south of Davis Drive. There's a pioneer cemetery up there. And they took the gravestones and mounted them in cement. And Jonathan Terry, his name is right there.
Nice.
1600 and something, whatever. No, 1700 and whatever it was.
But I know you were around like doing karate. I've read your book. I know you were around doing karate in Japan and traveled internationally and done a lot of things. So have you always kind of lived in Newmarket, or you're certainly not here for a while?
Well, I did leave and then ended up back home. But I started my martial arts training 51 years ago this week.
Nice.
Wow.
First lesson was above the upper floor of the old fire hall, which is now becoming a brewery. Jack Doak has come in and he's building another brewery.
That's great.
And
I heard
another
about that.
great addition to Main Street.
So Miles Doak, his nephew, actually works in our sister company, Snap, just next door to where we are right now. But why don't you tell us what you actually do, Brad?
Well, I'm a martial arts teacher. I've been running the dojo, as it's called here in Newmarket, for 45 years now. And I used to, when I worked full-time, I lived in the city, so I worked at the Havilland Aircraft and ran the dojo on the side from the time I was 21. And then over the years, I made it into a full-time career, and all those years competed for Ontario and for Canada internationally, and coached the national team and so on. But I always enjoyed the teaching aspect of it and made a career of it, and it's worked out quite well, actually.
Awesome. That's great.
Ended up purchasing the old Odeon Theater on Main Street and converted it into one of the finest dojos in the world, actually. I've got people coming internationally.
I've been in there before wearing my Snap hat, taking photos. It's beautiful in there. I'd like to congratulate you on that. And it's always nice to hear things, refreshing things like how you enjoy teaching and giving back. I mean, I think the premise part of the show is we're going to get into it. But why don't we say hi to Sylvie? And Sylvie, you're definitely not from Newmarket. How'd you end up here?
Well, I used to live in the city and I got married, and my in-laws lived in Holland Landing. So seeing as we were starting a family, we wanted to be closer to them. So
the built-in babysitter thing?
I'm sorry?
The built-in babysitter, be close to the in-laws. So you got built-in babysitters?
Plus all the love and the spoiling and all that. So
nice.
Yeah.
And what are you up to? I know before COVID hit, you were working for the Canadian Federation of Business. What are you doing now? Are you looking for a gig, or what are you up to?
I am looking for a gig. I've done some, community things, helped out our graduates this year, helped them celebrate since it was a challenge. And now I'm working on the Franco-Ontario flag. It's going to be the raising of the flag will happen this Friday, so that's another project of mine. And
so you are French Canadian, and so we're going to come.
I am
one of the gigs I know we're doing. Once again, wearing the snap tab, we're working on a project right now that requires some interpretive skills. So we're going to come to you anyway, Sylvie. We talked about you yesterday, saying Sylvie can do all the translation here, but maybe we'll circle back to Sylvie, and maybe that could be part of what we would talk about is finding Sylvie a gig or giving her some ideas. Yeah. And beside me is Jules, who works with Hollis Wealth Management. I know you've been doing that for quite a while, and I know your dad was involved. I know Scott Monroe. So we're friends. But I think through COVID, same with Sylvie, Jules and I have been pretty close. We've been doing, at Snap, we've been doing, comedy nights and music nights and all sorts of things. So
yeah, it's been fun.
I know Jules has been coming to a lot, but tell us about yourself, Jules. I'm going to assume you were born and raised here.
I am not born and raised. I don't have the deep roots like Brad does.
You don't have the tombstone on Jane Street or any of that?
I have an uncle that he actually had a farm on Mulock like years and years ago. But pretty much my family's roots, I would say, are in Arthur, Ontario, if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Little, I don't want to call it an armpit on.
But is that near Guelph?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in Guelph.
Oh.
And
so
then
like cows and
cows.
Yeah.
And so we moved to the big city.
Yeah.
And when I was 12, we came to Newmarket, living off Linden Road. And I have probably the most boring story of life where I have the same phone number since I was 12 because I had a teen line that when I moved out, I took it with me. I've worked for I
think that's a good story, but I love how you preface it by saying, I've got the most boring story, and then you told the story.
Well,
so you had that number?
I have that number. And then my dad started a business in Newmarket, actually across from the mall, in that building that kind of looks like a little McDonald's building on Yonge Street.
That single sort of standalone house thing.
So he had an office in the basement there, and he started selling GICs at the time when you could get investments like a 30-day GIC for 13%.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Crazy, which we don't see today at all. And,
I could parlay my $20 into $22.60.
Exactly. So he started doing that there, and in the summers, I would work for him. So I started basically child labor working there when I was 12. And
I think Newmarket's known for that. It goes all the way back to Brad's roots.
Exactly.
They do that for sure in Quebec.
Oh, yeah.
Sylvie, don't lie.
So I basically have worked at the same business I've worked with my dad. He made me go off to university, and I came back and went right back to it. So I've had the same work phone number since I was 12.
Nice.
And so nothing much changes in my life. I just moved from one corner of Newmarket to the other.
Yeah, but you're deeply involved with a lot of charities, like the food pantry.
So I'm on the board with the Newmarket Food Pantry. I'm the treasurer, and we're continuously working to make it better for the people in our community, because there are, sadly, in the Newmarket area, a lot of people that need to use the services of the food bank. What would be
some of the challenges? I know we're trying to keep everything positive. Yeah. We don't really want to, we're in the middle of COVID, but we don't want to talk too much about it. But what would you say as a charity some of the challenges are right now with running a charity? And, there's a lot of people hurting, and, people like Sylvie recently unemployed and looking for a new gig. So all of a sudden now she can only kind of maybe not monetarily support you, but only physically support you.
Yeah. So it is a challenge for charities. Fortunately for the food bank, we, for the first time ever, have actually received some funding from the provincial government where they sent hampers to the food pantry and that we could deliver to people in the community. So we've been kind of lucky in that sense. But it definitely is a challenge for people, because everyone right now, I think, is there's the fear of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're holding their money closer to home. So it is more of a challenge. So you kind of got to look for the giving in people to kind of hopefully give back and give to the charities that you don't even think of necessarily, because a lot of them are hurting right now. So
Yeah. I actually had an idea right in the middle of COVID. I was sort of saying I think all charities are hurting, and which I think generally they compete anyway. There's always this sort of competition between like support this or do the dog walk or support the food pantry or, hospital foundation and those kind of things. And, maybe there's an idea out there that we could have one fundraising thing, like one community, one donation, kind of like Magna Hoedown, where it's like everybody goes to Hoedown and then 15 or 20 charities kind of benefit from that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's difficult to sort of support things. I know we've been doing the music and comedy series, and it's sort of like support musicians, support the charity of the week.
Yeah, which is great that you've been doing that.
Yeah, it is, and it's gone really well, but I still feel like it's kind of empty. Like I don't know, as somebody that trust me, Snapped on the Snap side, we've been fully kicked in the shins.
Yeah.
It's not like, look at the lineup of people that want to advertise.
No, exactly.
But we still publishing, we still are making a little bit of money, and we're still eating. And so it's difficult. I somehow feel guilty for the people that are kind of, more kicked in the back or what, kicked in the head. So, not talking about necessarily you, Sylvie, getting kicked in the head, but maybe we can, what are some of the challenges you're having, Sylvie, and what are you trying to do? Let us help you. We're your neighbor.
Well, I've been, the challenges are, in the beginning of COVID, everyone was in shock because there suddenly was 1 million people on unemployment, and now there's 5 million people on unemployment. So as, you apply for a position, there might be 500 people who apply, and they don't get to see all the resumes, even though you've submitted them. I mean, I've used things like Indeed, and it'll give me an update as to where my, if someone's viewed my resume, and it's a month later and they haven't viewed it. Of course, how are they going to do that if they have to meet stuff? So, there's a lot of great people out there who are doing the exact same thing, trying to find something.
Have you ever had an entrepreneurial kind of mind? The reason I asked that, because I think you're sitting probably with 3 entrepreneurs right now, and some of whom have the same phone number since they were 12. And Brad does too. Brad. So we got 50% of the people have the same phone number for a long time, hundreds of years. Anyway,
hello.
Hi. Anyway, I think COVID or whatever in this time, I think the opportunity is people need to go find it. And I don't mean that flippantly, get off your butt and go find the money. I don't mean it like that. But I think, historically, I don't even know the unemployment numbers pre-COVID, but I would imagine it was 3% or something like that. And now it's 20%. So I think generally speaking, and I know, Sylvia, you and I loosely talked, but I know with Neighbur, we're looking at models where we actually are expanding. So I think they're kind of, we're looking for the entrepreneurial spirit there. So it's not really a job.
There's something, my stepdaughter was working for Hudson Bay doing marketing and so on. And of course they basically shut everything down. She'd been working from home for months and finally was let go. And on the side, she always had this thought about making clothing for dogs, small dogs. And she finally started to launch the thing and get materials and making patterns. And I've been helping her in terms of
modeling,
getting your. They're a little tight for me. But the getting that entrepreneurial mindset. And I've been introducing her to some people that are entrepreneurs. And she's starting to wrap her head around it. And one of the issues that I've always found particularly with young people, is that there is no school for entrepreneurialism. There's nowhere to take a course. When you come out of it, you have a diploma saying, now I'm an entrepreneur. It doesn't exist. So I know my business, I used to support several charities too, and I've had to cut right back. I was on assistance for 2 months because my place shut down, no income for a few months, and we're sort of limping by, making it like here, the same. However, we can donate our expertise to people who want to get into their own business. And that's this one fellow I introduced her to yesterday. He was originally a tailor. When he came to Canada, he became a sail maker for boats and canvas and so on. And he's a martial artist, and he started making gis, custom-made uniforms, and all the paraphernalia. As soon as COVID hit, while all the schools shut down, he immediately switched to making masks with custom masks with logos and so on, and getting through it. So he had a conversation with her about this as well. Sometimes if you have an idea and you want to, this is the time. This truly is the time to get that idea out of the closet. And most people who run their own business are willing. If you phone them and say, "Can I have coffee with you and buy you lunch? I want to pick your brain."
Do you
I don't
think
know
there's
anybody
an
who'd say no.
opportunity for us as entrepreneurs? I know the town kind of did stuff, but honestly, that's not driven by entrepreneurs. That's driven by people at the town that want to help people and have answers. Yeah. But it's not true entrepreneurs that say this is how it's going to work. This is how to leverage things. This is how to potentially finance. These are the pitfalls. Watch for that. And I think, Sylvie, even any one of the three of us here, if you came to us with a business idea, we would be able to certainly help. And I think be forthwith and saying, yeah, that's a really good idea, or here's why that might not work. Yeah. And I think, but do you think there's
having different people's thoughts on something might give a twist to something, an idea that you already have. Yeah. And maybe you're not thinking in a different way. So going to you Paul might come up with an idea like,
probably not.
Paul is always up for ideas.
Yeah. No, but it could be an idea using your friend who started making masks. You might have given him the idea of like, why don't you put a logo on it? And all of a sudden that elevates that idea.
Yeah. And I think that entrepreneurs or anyone, giving back doesn't mean giving money or promoting something. It can also be giving of your expertise, like you said, and your time. It's easy to give back.
And I think that's way more powerful, to be honest. Like, if you, not bragging about the three of us, but if we were sitting there and said, okay, we're going to sit down with Sylvie for 4 hours a week for the next couple of months, like we're giving her a few $1,000s per session.
Absolutely. The years of experience and mistakes, all of us can say, well, I know I'm successful because I made every mistake there is to make. And over a length of time, you figure, well, that didn't work, I'll do this, and so on. With that mindset, you can keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, people say that to me about Snap. Wow, Snap's super successful. And I've always been an entrepreneur. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you did all these other things. And I'm like, yeah, they were all unsuccessful. Otherwise, I'd still be doing them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I only could get to here because of the trials and tribulations I had before. Yeah. But maybe out of today, what we could do is say, okay, now's the time. We've got time intellectually to do things. I know maybe not Jules, she's the part of 500 charities. No. But maybe Brad, you and I, or Jules as well, could set up some sort of entrepreneurial network. I know at Snap we have a physical building. We're now limited to 10 people. But we could host
like a round table.
A round table.
Get a couple
Bring
of people
us your ideas. Yeah. And we'll help you get through them, because now is the time, I believe, to do your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's competitive. Does that sound like something of be interested, Sylvie?
Absolutely. That sounds really, really good.
So you could be the first person, and maybe what we could do is put together a few people, let people know how it's going. We get people like Rob Clark and some people like that involved.
Yeah. There's also that group, 100 Men That Care and 100 Women That Care.
Yeah.
And it might be worth talking to them and having a panel set up to help people with ideas, and then saying, okay, we're going to send you to these people, because now you can pitch your idea because you're better prepared, and let's see if we can get some finance.
Except those guys really just finance not-for-profits.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So the 100 Men Who Care, I'm part of it.
And I'm part of 100 Women Who Care too.
Yeah. Okay. So they get pitched by charities and on why they need the money. So, but I think it could be a version of that. 50 people who care about helping you become an entrepreneur. Or whatever it is.
Yeah. Something similar, but in a whole different way.
So really, today, that's one of the things we came up with. So we're going to help you, Sylvie, and we're going to help you find a gig, or
We're here for you, Sylvie.
yeah, we're going to help you find your own gig potentially. I know we loosely talked, and that's been a great conversation here.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? Can you see a time there, Dad?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. That's pretty good. So we got a few more minutes. We can keep talking. Anything you want to ask anybody, Jules? Like you just met Brad today.
Yep.
He's a super handsome guy. He's like fit, but Brad's like.
I've taken his picture before.
Bigger pardon, Sylvie?
I said I've taken his picture multiple
Oh
times.
yeah, so Sylvia has been a photographer and still is a photographer for
Was
Snap.
I clothed?
See, this is where Jules and I have to check.
I'm blushing under my mask.
But do you guys have any questions for each other? I mean, I've been sort of steering the ship here a bit, and
What are your, because you are on Main Street, what are your thoughts of Main Street? And like we were talking earlier about, and what Bob Quap has talked about last week, shutting down Main Street, and
there's already many events that happen at Main Street, and remember the mayor a while back when they were revitalizing the Main Street. They came up with this term that the main street of a town is like the living room of your house. It's where you entertain, it's where you relax, and so on, which is great in thought. And then when I moved to Main Street in 2004, it was still pretty derelict. And from the year that I moved there, and every year since, it's improved slowly, and it's really the place to be now. It's becoming more of an entertainment district, restaurants and so on. Closing it down, there are still businesses. And this is the thing, that you have the political side that has their political will to do whatever they want to do. And then you have people who own their own businesses and properties, and they don't always coexist. Closing it down permanently would definitely be a challenge for me, unless they provided some parking close enough to Main Street that it's not a huge hassle.
right.
Saturday is one of my busiest days. We start at 8:30 in the morning with classes. We go till 3 in the afternoon, and it's jammed.
so it becomes a real challenge.
It's a
like on
roadblock.
Canada
Yeah, what do
Day,
you-
if
yeah, what do you
something-
do?
If it's on a Saturday.
Yeah, if it was on a Saturday, and I just tell everybody, most people take the day off, and they have the car show, and they have various events where it just makes it a bigger challenge. In the middle of February, well, actually, they're talking about the summer, so it's not as big an issue. But closing it down permanently, if they're going to do that, then maybe take a portion of it and build a parking lot, or take a property behind and
Yeah,
build
like, I
something.
mean, I
Just
think there's
give
things
us the
like-
option. Don't just shut it down and say sorry.
I would assume the town owns all that land back there. So no offense to the tennis players. The tennis courts don't need to be there. People drive to get to tennis, and then they play tennis and go home. Even in theory, if you move them across Water Street on the other side of that parking lot, because it's kind of swampy a bit, but it's before the washrooms in Fairy Lake, and you move the tennis bubble there, then it frees up 50 or 60 spots where the tennis bubble is, which helps.
Or why does the tennis bubble even have to be on Main?
Well, that's what
Why
I mean.
couldn't it go-
Or just move it
It could be
somewhere
anywhere.
else.
There's
Yeah.
a little parkette on Sanford that I drove by yesterday looking at it. It's just a plot of land with grass, and there's nothing there. There's room for something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And ample parking for it.
Right. I know there's been also discussion, but the taxpayers will probably freak about it because there has been discussion about building a like a tiered parking
one.
lot.
That's
too.
been talked about for 40 years now.
Yeah.
I've been hearing this over and over.
But it is amazing the mindset. I know coming from Toronto, I was on the parking committee when I first came up. And I actually remember 2004 when I started Snapped. I remember Main Street, it was all under construction. I was like, how are the businesses going to survive
That's
this?
the year I moved there, and I
I
had
was
to
like,
walk on
this
planks
is
to get to my
crazy.
front door.
It was bulldozers and stuff everywhere.
yeah.
But on the parking committee, it's amazing when you're in Toronto. So someone, say, parks behind Rob Clark's place on Main Street. Not as the crow flies, it's or a baseball hit or a golf shot. It's only 200 yards from your place.
Yeah.
And growing up in Toronto, if I got a parking spot that close, I'd be like, look
Yeah.
how close
Oh,
I
yeah.
got.
I know.
But here, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's so far. And
Yeah.
yet, if you were at the mall, you're parked a lot physically further away. You can see the mall.
Yeah.
So somehow it doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
So there is a weird phenomenon when it comes to that kind of stuff. But if there's no spots, there's no spots.
There's no spots, yeah.
But there may be, because I know that even working on that Mulock project,
The farm that you guys
the Mulock
own?
farm. No.
That's what I was going to ask you.
No,
Is
it wasn't
that
that
your farm?
No. But because there's no parking either. That's going to be another issue with parking. So they're coming up with different ways of transporting people. And like maybe they're going to be parking at Ray 20 or whatever. But there has to be some kind of new way.
Is that even a logical thing to do?
I don't know.
To
They
me,
the planners came and did present some stuff when I was at a meeting for it. And there are ways in the future that will allow people to come in quickly, get there easily.
Definitely in the future, we're going to see a lot less cars, people moving around, Ubers,
And maybe
that kind of.
maybe COVID is going to accelerate that like it has in so many different.
I know in our other business, it's accelerated a lot of things.
Yeah.
I just find it hard in my mindset to think I'm going to go park at Ray 20.
I know to
take a shuttle over to a park
Yeah.
that's going to have stuff like.
And then wait for a shuttle to go back.
I mean, I think I'm lazy and all that. I'm like, I don't know if I would do that.
People move out of the city so that they have the convenience of driving somewhere and getting out of the car and doing whatever they do.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mindset, and you're right, living in, I lived in Tokyo for a while. Forget about parking or Paris. Parking? Are you kidding me? You spend an hour circling, trying to find a little spot.
Even downtown Toronto. I have a condo downtown
awful.
Toronto. Park my car in the condo, never to be seen till Monday morning. Like I just Uber around, walk around. Like,
But that's the issue here. And then you're right. When I get people complaining about, well, there's no parking down there. Well, yeah, there is. It's down in the back. Yeah, but I got to walk all. Well, when you go to the mall, you're right. It's like a quarter of a mile sometimes from your car to where you want to get in there. But you're inside.
So sometimes we can work in a positive sense. We could work on things even through our partnership in Snap. We could work on the ideation around, hey, it's not as far a walk as you think.
No.
Or, hey, part of the committee, getting people together and giving non-political solutions.
Yeah.
Trust me, I like the politicians in our town. I think they work hard.
Oh, they
but
do.
I do think there's political agendas around some of the stuff that not necessarily are. Sometimes you just need people like us, or certainly people like me, that will just say their mind and not always be certainly politically correct in that regard, but say, well, why don't you just move the tennis bubble? Like, because I'm not fearful of tennis players not voting for it, right?
You don't care if
I don't care if all the tennis players hate me because we moved it over to the other park that Brad
it's not
suggested.
taking it away. It's moving it somewhere else where it's easier access for them and frees up for others. And you know, when you come to the table with an idea or solution, okay, fine. And if it's argued, well, it's not going to work because of this and this, okay, fine. But to come and complain, there's no.
Yeah, I can tell you guys a funny story as it relates to Snap. So someone came to me once. I designed an ad for them. This is like years ago, going back to like 2004 or something. I designed an ad and they said, I don't like the color. And I was like, okay, what color do you like? I don't know. I'm like, there's 14 million colors. You have to get me a little bit on a path.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not going to click and change color and say, well, what about this one 14 million times? So I agree with you. Like, I think it's good. And I think even today's been really good. We've come up with a couple of solutions. We, spitballed the idea of, the entrepreneurial group to help people out.
Kind of like a mentorship.
But a true mentorship from people that have been there and done that.
Yeah.
And then even an idea around like to find some additional parking. Might not be the best idea, and there could be a whole bunch of reasons why it doesn't make sense. But at least we've spitballed some ideas, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, Sylvie, for being on the phone but being ignored by us mostly. That was an accident. We love you.
We do, Sylvie.
Yeah.
I love you too.
So I'm going to wrap it up today. That was another edition. I want to thank our sponsors who you heard at the beginning of the show, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Thanks, Paul.
That was great.
Yeah.